And welcome back to another episode of PWT Talks NXT here on the PWTorch Daily Cast or on YouTube if you're watching us live. If you're not watching us live, you're watching us on the Daily Cast. Well, hey, thanks. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you listening to the recording. We're here to talk NXT for 9/24/2024. The very last episode of NXT on the USA Network. They're moving to the CW, folks. If you didn't know that from them, maybe mentioning it about 87,000 times tonight or the last couple of weeks. Moving to CW next week. A couple big shows lined up. We're going to see CM Punk. We're going to see Randy Orton. We got The Miz lined up for the next couple of weeks here. So jam-packed. But ending tonight, we wound up with a segment with Roxanne Perez and Giulia. But the biggest surprise here was another Funaki sighting. That at least that was for me anyway. But no, so we had this. We had basically all night long. We had these segments, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we had these press conference segments with. It seemed like they were backstage in front of like this NXT set. And there were these reporters asking questions to different superstars all night long. At the very end of the night, I think it was Sarah Schreiber. Yeah, she was Sarah Schreiber. She was in front of the panel of reporters, told them to get up and go to the arena for the last segment between Roxanne Perez and Giulia, where they basically asked them some questions to kind of end the show. This was the first time. Actually, no, sorry. I don't think it was the first time. It wasn't for the first time we saw Giulia speak. We saw her speak last week, but this is the first time I think in front of a live crowd she spoke. She did have Funaki at her side once again as her interpreter. We saw her speak once in Japanese. We also saw her speak in English. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Should she continue to cut promos in Japanese, or should she cut promos in English? But the biggest, as I said, wasn't necessarily Funaki. The biggest surprise here. It was Funaki was the second biggest. The biggest surprise was finally the debut of Stephanie Vaquer on NXT TV. She showed up on screen and basically said that she's coming for whoever wins the match between Roxanne and Giulia for the NXT title next week on NXT on the CW network. So a lot of moving parts here towards the end of the show, but I thought this was a pretty decent segment. I thought Giulia looked pretty good. For me, her promo in English was a little bit but that's okay. I just don't think I don't think her I guess cadence maybe was or timing kind of matched what the crowd might have been looking for, because I don't think they popped when they should have. But like I said, I think this was a fun segment, a good segment to move this feud forward, moving into these episodes on the CW network, and obviously the debut of Stephanie Vaquer from she signed a little while ago, historically in New Japan and things like that. I think New Japan and Stardom. I think there's one or two other promotions she wrestled for, which we'll talk about. But joining me here tonight is a friend of mine, Jobin. Jobin's been on the show a couple times before, filling in for Kelly. So Jobin, say hey.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So pretty good night, I think, overall for me. There's no like big section of the night that was super slow paced or anything like that. A lot of good promo segments, a lot of actual good matches, unlike the last week comes to mind, where there was not a lot of wrestling necessarily in our wrestling. They're trying to do all this groundwork to get ready for this network switch, which I think has been going pretty well. But I guess we'll get into that more as we discuss tonight.
Absolutely. We've got in the chat already Brock Benningfield. Pretty good English from Giulia. I got to admit, I think her English was pretty good. Like I said, I think her timing was a little bit off, but again, it's a second or third. I think she also speaks Italian language, so I can't really fault her for that. that's why she has Funaki at her side. We also Azan, Io, and Asuka got over with barely any English. Yes, they did. I personally kind of like the fact that they cut promos in Japanese. They're more comfortable in their native language. And at least like with Io and Asuka, like they're more animated, and their promos come off a little bit more authentic, even though I have no idea what they're saying.
You can tell that they are more comfortable doing the
Yeah.
promo, as opposed to trying to, hit all their marks and remember what they're trying to say, and trying to remember what they're trying to say in a non-native language.
Exactly.
Kyrie, same thing. Like, it's certainly not the first time we've seen this.
No, not at all. Not at all. And as I was talking with you offline, before we came on air, Funaki used to do it too. It was no, indeed.
Yeah, so not certainly an unknown unknown thing in WWE.
So let's I guess let me get your opinion here. So what did you think of the final segment? I guess you also talk a little bit about Roxanne Perez as a heel. I know we've talked a little bit about that, as well as your coworkers' feelings on Roxanne Perez. If you want to bring that up, feel free. But how did Julia Fair and also Stephanie Vaquer? I don't know how much you know about her, but how did her debut at least come off to you?
So I mean, I guess with Julia, we haven't gotten to see a ton of her yet, but I think this little promo segment went well. Great.
And there's Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
I mean, that's probably fair, Kelly. Julia saying something terrifying.
Kelly's in the chat. He can't join us tonight, but he's in the chat. Kelly's a little sick. He's got a sore throat. He can't talk. So,
seems to be going around lately. But yeah, no, I mean, overall, I was pleased with the segment. It was it was your typical contract signing sort of segment at the end of the night. I feel like it was mostly just there to tease this. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. Stephanie
Vaquer.
Stephanie Vaquer. I mean, obviously, was in there to get that segment out. Overall, though, I was not an especially big fan of these press conference segments. I think I'd said that to you as well during the show, because I don't know, something about it just felt weird. I mean, it did its job. I just was not especially a big fan of it. And sorry, what else did you say? Roxy as a heel.
Roxanne Perez, as a heel champion, there's a possibility she may drop the belt to Julia, and we see a feud between Julia and Stephanie. So I guess so I guess Roxanne as a heel champion, as well as, what do you think Roxy's odds are at retaining?
I don't hate her chance to retain. I think they'll probably put it on Julia. Since it was such a big deal, she was hyped for so long, and it was known for a while that she was going to be joining NXT. It seems likely they'll put it on her. Though I do love Roxy as a heel champion. Like you had made the joke about my coworker's feelings on the subject. I think he doesn't like Roxy for the same reason I don't like Grayson Waller. They're too good at their job. He really doesn't like her because she's kind of a snotty, egotistic. She's playing that role as the heel, and he just isn't about it.
Yep.
In the same way that, like I said, I'm not a big fan of Grayson Waller. So funny that he's also very relevant tonight.
Yes, Grayson Waller on the show quite a
wrestler, great at cutting a promo, really, really good at getting heat. Too good because I just don't like him.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's because it's funny. Like, there's been a few times where Jobin said to me, like, they'll come over watch NXT with me, or Raw, SmackDown, whatever. He said something about, how he just can't stand Grayson Waller. And I was like, but he's a great wrestler. He's like, yeah, he's just too good at his job. Yeah, exactly. And I
He's
think
really good at making people not like him, which is, a credit to his skills, but it just bothers me.
Kelly says he's a lot sick and his voice sounds terrible in 2 languages because he could have potentially translated some of this stuff for us tonight. He knows a little bit of Japanese, a little bit. And Azan comes in saying off topic, Roxy, or have Roxy step in that role that should be for Cora, who has the worst luck. I think there might have missed a word or something there, but that's what he said. So there we go. But I think because like Cora Jade, she's been off TV for a while. I think I remember reading something about. I don't remember.
It's a torn ACL.
It's a torn ACL. Yeah, it's a torn ACL. I thought I remembered seeing something recently about her coming back, but or her return, but I now can't remember. Which is fine. That happens to me a lot when I can't remember things. So yeah, I guess so let's go ahead. We'll move on here. We had a total of 37 minutes and 38 seconds of wrestling on the show here tonight, which I believe beat out last week, which I think came in around 33, 32 minutes of wrestling on a 2-hour show. So we didn't quite get a lot of wrestling here tonight either. A lot of story and press conferences, as we talked about. The one thing that I did want to bring up, because you said you're talking, or we were both talking about the main event segment, the final segment of the night. The only thing that I liked about the press conference was the final segment with Roxy and Julia. It just added a little something different to a contract signing. We see those contract signings all the time. Somebody goes through a table all the time. I mean, there's only so many things that you can do with a contract signing. So it just kind of made it wasn't a contract signing because the match was already made and the contract, I believe, already signed. But it had that same type of a feel to it. But it was different enough to not feel, I guess, repetitive of a segment that we see so often across all 3 shows. All right. With that said, let's go ahead here. Like I said, 37 minutes and 38 seconds of wrestling here on the show. Our opener tonight, Kalani Jordan versus Ren Sinclair for the NXT North American title. Kalani Jordan wound up retaining. Ren Sinclair had the no quarter catch crew by her side. Accidentally wound up taking them out in the middle of the match. They were, obviously standing outside the ring. Kalani Jordan kind of getting in a little bit with them, getting in their face a little bit. She steps out of the way as Ren Sinclair came jumping off the top rope, looking for her, but hit her boys instead. I thought this was a good match, fun way to start the show. I believe this was the second longest match on the show, 9 minutes and 45 seconds. The final match on the show, Cedric and Jevon versus A-Town Down Under, was 11 minutes 36 seconds, which was the longest of the night. So Kalani and Ren, 9 minutes and 45 seconds, second longest of the night. Like I said, I think this is a good match. Ren Sinclair, this might be the longest. I don't know if it's necessarily the longest match she's had on NXT TV. It certainly felt like it to me, not in a bad way by any stretch.
Might be.
But I think it might be. I thought she handled this pretty well. She's a great wrestler, especially for somebody who's relatively new to the roster. I think she's coming along really good. Kalani Jordan, again, always continues to impress. I thought they had some great chemistry together. So on our opener tonight.
Yeah, like you said, good match. I'm been on here before, stated it at least a couple of times. Big Kalani fan, so I think she did a very, very good job. Ren Sinclair's is definitely growing on me too, because obviously they kind of brought her in to kind of bolster, I guess, new quarter catch crew, and it's been working. Like, I wasn't sure how well she'd fit in. I wasn't sure exactly how well that would work in the long run, but I think it's been it's been coming along. Overall, like you said, great chemistry, good good spots in the match, good pacing for the opener. Couple of botches I think I might have noticed, but that's
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like not nothing like so glaring that like ruined the match or anything to that level. But
Right.
yeah, overall, really, really good match. Ozan, I see, makes a good comment about Jordan needing more character work, which is true.
Yeah.
But I feel like they've have been doing that,
A
because
little bit.
when she won the title, she had no character.
She was the lead out of Kelly, Bruce, and I. She was I think all three of us had her picked last to win that 6-woman ladder match.
I don't think I had her at the top, but I didn't have her last.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's certainly coming along. She's now that she has that title and she's getting more screen time and more mic time, I think she has more of a chance to build that character that she didn't really have before, because she was just one of many, many, many women that they're trying to get screen time, they're trying to work with, because you guys have brought it up a bunch of times, and I know we've talked about it when I've been on the show, but your Carly Brights, your generic name number 4, generic name number 5. Like, it's hard to keep them all straight without some kind of character behind them, which we're now getting with Kalani, we're now getting with Ren Sinclair. So I think it's good that they're moving them forward together too, since they do have that really good match chemistry.
Yeah. Brock Benningfield comes in saying, the more I see of Ren in and out of the ring, the more I like. And I 100% agree. I love her backstage, like the backstage stuff that she's doing with No Quarter Catch Crew, or even in the ring. Like, if she's teaming with them or just standing outside the ring, like I think she's the most animated. She's the best character in No Quarter Catch Crew. At least most interesting.
She's pulling a Thea Hale and a Chase U, where Thea is absolutely the most interesting member of Chase U. Yeah, she's definitely filling that role in New Quarter Catch Crew.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. All right, so if you guys want to be a part of the show, you certainly can do that. You can email us pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. Kevin Catani did just that, as he usually does. Salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. I love the flow of tonight's episode and love the attention and build on display for the big move to CW. Of course, there will be lots of questions in the first few weeks of the transition, but what is your gut feeling about the channel switch? Next, how would you answer this question? NXT on CW, will it be successful if? NXT on CW will be successful if? A question mark. And if I may dive deeper on that point, what is one hot take you have for NXT's move to CW? Thanks as always. I still believe in Joe Hendry, and I am still excited to watch Julia run roughshod over the women's division. Go VIP and listen to NXT 8 years back. Office hours are now over. The Professor, Kevin P. Catani, PhD. There's a lot here. So let's see. What is our gut feeling about the channel switch? So I think overall it's going to be. I've got good feelings about it. I don't think the product's going to suffer. I don't think we're going to go back to the NXT 2.0 era, or any sort of major changes like that. I think maybe we'll get some sort of a brand refresh like they did with SmackDown when they moved to Fox, moved off Fox to the USA Network. We might get a little bit like a new logo, maybe some different shades of colors or something like that, different shade of yellow or gold.
New theme song or some such.
Yeah, maybe something along those lines. They might present the show a little differently. There's definitely talks of doing some more touring. I've read a few different things now that have said the NXT is looking to go on the road more, if not permanently. So we'll see if that actually happens. I know obviously we've got these two shows, these next two shows. One's in Chicago and the other's in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody will
Yep.
correct me, or I'm just right.
Home of the Viper, Randy Orton himself.
Yes, yes. Oh, we should explain why he's gonna just show. Yeah, because he'll probably just be
And
home.
why
He's like, yeah,
CM
I'll just
Punk is
show
on
up.
the
Why
first
not?
one in Chicago.
Yep. No, exactly. I feel like anytime you go to Chicago, you got to get Punk involved. But yeah, like I said, I think, but my gut feeling on the Switch is going to be a positive thing. And this is me. I haven't heard anybody talking about this or anything. This is just me saying this. But this, even though the CW is a smaller network out of the broadcast networks, it's still a broadcast network. So I'm wondering, do they have the potential to get more eyeballs on them than they would have on the USA Network? People do still use the digital antennas and stuff, and it'll be one of the shows they get for free. So I don't know. So there's that. I think so. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think NXT on CW will be successful if um, they can outperform or at least stay steady or outperform the ratings that they currently have. But also if they can, just continue to make stars. That I don't think we'll see going, because like actually Tommaso Ciampa was recently interviewed and brought this up. That people like Trick Williams or anybody else that gets brought up from NXT, the dramatic character shifts, like Karrion Kross. When Karrion Kross first got called up, I know it was before you came back to wrestling, Jobin, but I don't know if you remember that or have seen that since. When Karrion Kross first got called up, he went from being the character that he kind of is now, kind of that dark brooding, character with Scarlett and all of that, and they dropped Scarlett entirely. He had this weird cross-shaped strap going across his chest, like suspenders. They gave him this weird-ass mask. It was awful, and he got like booed out of the building his first match.
No, I have not seen this.
Yeah, I'll have to show it to you.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be seeing things like that going from NXT to the main roster. The gimmick may change a little bit, might evolve, but the gimmick will largely stay the same. Whatever worked for them in NXT, they're going to continue to develop in WWE, which is great. It's what they should have been doing in the first place. So yeah, I think as long as they continue to build stars, they'll be successful. And while I think of one hot take I have for NXT's move to the CW, what is your gut feeling on the switch? And what do you think the definition of success will be for NXT?
I mean, I think the network switch is going to be fine. It's the people that are still NXT fans are just going to go watch it over there, and as you said, they have the potential to reach more people than are currently watching it, or people that may, just be flipping channels that'll come across that they wouldn't have otherwise. So I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference either way. Again, as you had mentioned, some kind of maybe a new logo, a new color scheme, a new theme song, a new, something just to mark the fact that it is now a different era, being the CW era or whatever they end up calling it. To be successful, I think they just need to keep doing what they're doing. Training people to the best of their ability, bringing, the people that have the most potential to the forefront.
Yeah.
I think they just more of what Shawn Michaels has been doing, I think will be just fine for them. It's a great product. I wish more people would watch NXT, but everybody's hung up on their favorite main roster people and should take the time to see where they're coming from, because whoever your favorite in NXT is now is probably going to be on the main roster in a year or two at the most.
Exactly.
I mean, might as well get in early.
I mean, look at the roster right now. It's funny because Kelly, I got to admit, I don't always tune in to 8 years back, but sometimes I do. And it's so funny just listening to some of the names that they're talking about in NXT 8 years back that were in NXT 8 years ago, and then seeing where they are now.
I mean, Finn Balor, Becky Lynch, Bayley,
Liv Morgan,
so many people.
Yeah, like Liv Morgan's one. I when she debuted, I was kind of like, I even think I said to myself, like, she felt like almost like a Carmella ripoff. In a way, I might be thinking of somebody else, but like I have that memory in the back of my head. But now, she's world champion, like, and I think she's doing a pretty damn good job where she's at. So it's yeah, I do. I wish more people give NXT a shot. Um, Kevin, I don't have a hot take for NXT's move to CW. So if I think of one, I'll mention it. If not, then I won't. So there's that. Um, Kelly comes in saying that Karrion Kross also lost a meaningless match to Jeff Hardy while he was still the undefeated champion on NXT. And that was before the gimmick change, if I'm not mistaken. They still had him like in his normal gimmick, but yep, undefeated in NXT as the champ, comes in, loses to Jeff Hardy. In just kind of a no nothing match.
Sounds right for the time period that was happening, though. To be fair,
Yep.
Like, let's push somebody really strong and then just have them lose one night, just cause.
Yep. Because Vince does not understand what's going on. Kelly also said that Liv Morgan is dreadful in NXT, and we're in that era right now. All right. So with that, let's keep moving on here. Our next match we'll we'll go in order. Why not? Sometimes we skip around. I'm going to go in order tonight. Our second match of the night, Hank and Tank versus the Good Brothers. Saw Hank and Tank go over because, of course, why would the Good Brothers actually get a win ever in NXT or the WWE? I think they've won one match, if that, since they've come back to NXT. I love what Hank and Tank are doing right now. It's still an undercard act, but they're definitely getting over with the NXT crowd. I think they were getting bigger reactions to the Good Brothers were tonight. Granted, they're the faces, Good Brothers the heels, but whatever. Good Brothers are obviously the bigger names, much bigger names. But I love what Hank and Tank are doing. I think they've got some great chemistry together. They're not the greatest wrestlers in the world, but I don't feel like they have to be for the gimmick they're in, especially Hank, where Hank was originally like he was supposedly a security guard that just became a wrestler one day, like by getting involved in an angle. Obviously, he was part of the performance center and yada yada, but like that's how they introduced him, was as a security guard. So for that, like, be a brawler. You don't need to, keep looking like Seth Rogen and, you're good. It works. Tank reminds me of like a mix between Tucker and Otis back in the day of Heavy Machinery. More Otis than anything, but I love it. They've got some great chemistry and they do some good work. Hank and Tank got the win. Kind of a shock win, a little upset victory over the Good Brothers here. So let me throw to you on our second match of the night. And what do you think, if anything, is the upside for the Good Brothers in NXT?
The upside is that they're putting other people over, which is always a good thing, I guess. They're helping out the newbies. I think is honestly the main reason they're there. Enhancement talent is kind of a strong term, but a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they I know I've been saying that since they came back. They're there to put over talent. I just wish, after getting to find down on the main roster so much, that they were pushed a little bit, maybe for like a month, where they just like ran like roughshod over whoever they came up against, just to build them up a little bit and then have them lose to people and put them over. But here it's just, you see the Good Brothers and automatically you're like, oh, they're gonna lose. As Azan says in the chat, the Good Brothers need AJ Styles back real soon, and I agree.
Yeah.
Not that they were doing much with him, but I mean, they had him on TV together for a while and whatever before AJ went off and did his own thing for a bit. But yeah, it'd be nice when because AJ's been off TV for a little while. Be nice to actually see them come back, like the three of them. I don't know. I like that trio. So that's just me.
And then before we move on too fast,
Yeah,
as far as like you mentioned, Hank and Tank, not the best wrestlers, they're kind of that brawler type. I think back to like the Revival.
yeah,
Worked for them for a long time. Obviously, they're no longer with WWE, but that worked for them for a really long time because I would say same deal. Not the best wrestlers, but the personality was good. The look was right. It still felt good, even if the wrestling wasn't the coolest thing you've ever seen.
yeah. Well, what I like about FTR, or Revival, FTR, whatever you want to call them, what I like about them is they like to try and um, uh, they tried to stay old school, and they wouldn't necessarily. They don't put on these big flashy matches. Generally it's this old school mentality, old school wrestling, kind of like Gunther. He was great. Um, Kelly. Kelly comes in saying Revival pretty good in the ring early on. I'd agree with that. I just think that because I think what, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think what you're trying to say is like it wasn't as like flashy and flippy as
Sure,
everybody
yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I shouldn't say not as good in the ring, not as flashy as is kind of the the meta, I guess, of WWE right now. That's what they're looking for, is the big and the flashy, and your Jevon Evans, and you're that type of
Yeah.
over the top, high flying type of wrestler. Um, having a more like brawling, old school, as you said, focused team,
Yeah.
I think is a good thing to have around.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but
Mhm.
sure is mine. Sure is mine.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
yeah. All right, Lexis King versus Oro Mensah. Um, Actually, I didn't mention the time for the last match. So that Hank and Tank match with the Good Brothers went 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Oro Mensah versus Lexis King went 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Saw Oro Mensah pick up the win over Lexis King with his feet on the ropes, guys. The face was using the ropes because Lexis King sure as hell ain't the face here. Uh, they had a backstage segment, excuse me, a little bit earlier in the night, where Lexis King, Oro Mensah, he's been kind of talking about his father and his family and his upbringing and things over the past, I don't know, maybe 6-8 weeks or so. Um, really, since Noam Dar has been out, and kind of he's been the, I guess, real focal point of metaphor. Um, but yeah, so Lexis King comes out or backstage, walks up to him, and starts talking about he knows a thing or two about fathers, and brings his father into it, without actually invoking the name of Brian Pillman. But we all know. Even Booker T on commentary later in the night said that we all know the story of Lexis King, and I think even might have mentioned who his father, like we all know who his father is or something like that. I forget the exact words, but they kind of wink wink, nudge nudge, if you know you know. um I thought that was kind of cool, but he was showing like he was actually being like a decent human being. To what did I? Oh, Lexis King shows some humility with Oro Mensah is what I wrote down. Talking about fathers, may the best man win type of thing, which was off-brand for Lexis King. And we saw his true colors in this match. Kind of just shouting things at Oro Mensah. Putting him. I wasn't. No, it was Rich Holland that went through through the barricade. Never mind. The barricade was not involved in this match. I'm confusing two matches. Um, but yeah, I thought this was, it was fine. On the better side of one of Lexis King's matches, I think. Probably simply because he's in there with Oro Mensah. Um, I didn't necessarily like the finish. I would have liked to see Oro Mensah pick up the win without needing to use the ropes or something. But because I just feel like it's too much of a heel type move for trying to get him over as a babyface, unless they're not doing that. But that certainly doesn't seem to be the direction they're going, or at least in my opinion, anyway. Um, yeah, so let me throw to you on Lexis King or Mensah, what you thought of this, and I guess also too, like, what is your overall take on Lexis King, and do you think he's been an effective character since his debut?
I mean, to answer that second question first, no. Um, he hasn't really, like, they just haven't seemed to know what to do with him. Like, he had a weird DJ feud with, very recently with Eddie Thorpe. Like, that was weird. Then they did the Dante Chen feud before that, where he did end up, I guess, winning the feud, but like he lost almost the entirety of the feud up until the final match, and then Dante Chen just didn't come back. So I'm not sure what it is exactly they're trying to do with him aside from just being annoying. Just anything that he can be annoying about, he shows up to be annoying about, which I guess is okay if they had him win ever. Because I think that oh, I'm better than you, this thing I like is cooler than the thing that you like, works really well if they can ever win a match.
Yeah.
Rather than just having him show up and be like, well, my thing's cooler, and then lose every single match. Like, I can think of maybe 2 matches that he's won since I've been watching since, I don't know, roughly WrestleMania this year.
Steve coming in and making me laugh. The only way Lexis King gets on back on track is if he were to face Giovanni Vinci. Yes.
Since apparently they brought Vinci back to also lose every single match, or at least that's how it's been going so far.
It was a very similar on was it SmackDown? Yeah, SmackDown. Where he lost, kind of very similar like reaction afterwards, like, what? I lost? I can't believe this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair, the match itself was fun. Like, the segment was fun, where he wasn't even out of his like tracksuit yet, and he already lost. Like, it was fun, but yeah, I mean, to bring to push somebody so hard and then just kind of not do anything with them seems like a shame, because I know he is a great wrestler. His all of his promos are really fun. All of his backstage segments are, like, he does a good job portraying the character they want him to portray. They just need to give him a win ever, and I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely. Riley Osborne versus Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland wins 3 minutes and 6 seconds. This, I actually, it did. It felt a lot longer. So either it felt a lot longer, or and it really was 3 minutes and 6 seconds, or Kelly's wrong. It's one of the two.
I think the match was 3 minutes, but there was that whole
segment afterwards.
Afterwards with them beating on each other that made that the segment itself long, but the match itself, the official match, was short.
I'm just gonna stick with Kelly is wrong.
I mean, that's on you. I don't, I know of Kelly. I watch the show every week, but I haven't actually talked to Kelly because I'm usually only here when Kelly's not around. So
that's true. Speaking of the devil, he comes in saying brawl beforehand, brawl after. Okay, that's true. Right. So that plays into it.
Yeah, so it extended the segment.
Yeah, match itself was only 3 minutes and 6 seconds, but Kelly, you're still wrong. You don't have a voice other than text, and nobody can see it unless I bring it up on screen, or if you're in the YouTube chat. Ha! I have the power. Anyway, that's what I get for having caffeine before the show, guys. I'm never going to sleep tonight. Ridge Holland, Riley Osborne. I actually really liked this match, surprisingly. Because lately I haven't really been super, like, I don't know, Ridge Holland doesn't do much for me. Chase University kind of feels, I don't want to say played out, but maybe a little bit played out. Ever since they did that whole, like, bankruptcy angle and the gambling and all that, I just kind of lost my love for Chase U. At least, like I still love Chase U, but it's not like, if they're not on NXT, I don't notice, whereas I used to. But I liked this. Riley Osborne was fighting for Chase University here. Ridge Holland has taken out Duke Hudson. He took out Andre Chase. So Riley Osborne was the only one left. Unless Thea Hale wants to get in the ring against Riley Osborne, but we all know how the WWE feels about intergender matches. So that ain't happening. But Riley got in there. He got pinned. He lost to Ridge Holland. but comes back towards the end. And like he tried to, tried to like still fight Ridge Holland and kind of, get that fire back. But unfortunately, Ridge Holland, this was the match where somebody went through the barricade. That would be Riley went through the barricade at the hands of Ridge Holland. Thea Hale screaming at him to stop. And why are you doing this and things like that, getting in his way. The There was one point where Thea kind of gets in between Riley Osborne and Ridge Holland, as well as the steps. The steps are right behind Thea Hale. So Ridge Holland like runs around the ring, jumps the steps, jumps over her, and flies and hits Ridge Holland. And the refs come down, try to pull them apart, let them fight. Chants break out. I thought this was actually pretty effective to try and keep the story alive, especially where, Ridge Holland, or sorry, Duke Hudson and Andre Chase are simply not on TV right now. There's only two people to keep Chase University alive, and that's Thea and Osborne. I agree with Brock Benningfield in the chat. It says Osborne is fun to watch, and I agree. I think in terms of wrestling, he's the most fun to watch in Chase University. Thea Hale is the most entertaining character in Chase University, but I think in terms of wrestling, I would agree with that. So, Jobin, let me throw to you on Osborne versus Holland and all of that great fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, overall, decent match. With the, getting right into it, not even in the ring, we're already starting the brawl, that's always fun. I think this did what it needed to do to get Ridge Holland over as the heel that he needs to be. Obviously we had all the video packages and all that over the last couple of weeks, on top of him, actually turning on Andre Chase and Duke Hudson. So like him getting the win was great, did what he needed to do, but then we still got that little bit of payback from Chase U. The whole time though, I'm just listening to Thea scream, and her voice tomorrow is she's going to be having a bad time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like very fun match. Big what's the how do we put this? Big man meat. What's the
big sweaty men slapping man meat?
Yeah, that's the one. That's
something like that.
basically what the match was. Is two big strong guys doing big strong guy stuff, which is fun to watch once in a while. Getting somebody through a barricade, I feel like has been the thing to do lately. Didn't they also do that last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago?
I think so. Yeah, and then like Bronson Reed with the barricade on Raw, and like there's always barricade stuff.
I'm just very glad that you pointed out to me that somebody put caution tape over that barrier, since that one seems to break really easy.
I know, right? Like that particular barrier in general. That and the timekeeper area on the main roster. They gotta reinforce.
They gotta reinforce those. Yeah, exactly.
Oof. Just like they gotta reinforce those announce tables. Kelly coming in saying that he's been waiting for a breakout like this for him. I'm assuming he means Osborne.
Yeah.
Reminds him of a young Matt Sydal, and I can see that. If Brock Benningfield, if Thea is able to pull it off, seeing her slam Ridge would make the crowd pop. Oh my God,
that would be so good.
I would.
I'm here for that one, Brock.
I would definitely pop for that myself. Like if she just goes ape shit and just slams him, yes.
Which we know she's very capable of doing.
Oh, absolutely.
I assume she can pick him up, but she's so small and he's so big.
I'd say she might be able to. She's
at least for like, if she hits him with like a power slam or something that isn't like a lifting move, I think she could probably make it work.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely. Now all I could think about is Thea Hale like coming in and slamming Ridge Holland. That's fantastic. All right, let's see. Let's keep moving on here. Rosemary and Wendy Choo versus Brinley Reese and Karmen Petrovic. This saw Rosemary and Wendy Choo go over. in 4 minutes and 1 second. Kelly sent me his notes, and they're really tiny on my screen. I could have zoomed in, but I didn't. So 4 minutes and 1
I just
second.
pulled up the report on the website.
I mean, I could do that too, but do you have Kelly's handwritten notes?
I do not.
Yeah, so I can look at them. I don't know. It's fine. Excuse me. So yeah, I kind of like this pairing between Wendy Choo and Rosemary. Like a little, especially now as we come into spooky season, which I can't believe we're at the end of September already. My God, where did this year go? Actually, I realized next week will be my 5-year anniversary on this show, which is insane.
Really?
Absolutely insane to me. I can't believe I've been doing this 5 years. But yeah, so what the hell was I talking about? Why did I start talking about me?
Wendy Choo, spooky
Wendy
season.
Choo, right? Spooky season. That's what I was getting to. Wendy Choo, Rosemary. Coming into spooky season, we need a little bit of a spooky tag team, I guess. Why not? As long as we don't bring back zombies, I'm fine. So yeah, I think this was an okay match. Brinley Reese, Karmen Petrovic, they wound up losing due to Ashante the Adonis coming out with a rose and trying to get with Karmen. We saw a little bit of this earlier in the night too with Karmen. I believe she was talking to Lola Vice backstage about things with Fatal Attraction and Jada Parker, she comes. Ashante the Adonis comes in with the rose, kind of talking to all the women. All of them are kind of like turning him down and basically telling him go away, including Tatum Paxley. He called her a freak and said he's one too. And okay, that's cool.
She also mentioned that her heart belongs to another, which I assume is referencing Lyra Valkyria. But
I was also assuming Lyra Valkyria. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ashante came out. Apparently, he's got his eye on Karmen. Karmen noticed and just went over to him and was like, "What are you doing here? You should be out back." While her partner got beat in the ring. So I hate it when baby faces do really stupid things, and this was one of those times where a babyface did something really stupid. So yeah, is what it is. I kind of going back to something that you brought up a little while ago, or when we were talking about the opening match. We have all of these. We've got a lot of these new women who really don't. They don't have a lot to stand out. Some of them look very similar, and they all have like really weird names that you can't remember. Karmen, I can remember Karmen because at this point, Brinley Reese, I can remember both of them, but still, I think from week to week, they either they need to work on giving them a bit more of a character, defining character, something that's more memorable, or maybe have some of them change up their look or something. But there are just so many blonde women on the show that kind of look similar. It's I don't know, and I know Kelly was saying the same thing.
It's a lot of very blonde women in light colored or pastel gear that all kind of looks very, most of them are in like the like connected trunks top, like very, very much the same in almost every single way.
Yeah. And it is, it's tough to like kind of keep them separate. Like they need to be a little bit more unique and identifiable. But anyway, what did you, let me throw to you on Rosemary Choo versus Reese and Petrovic.
It was a solid match. Like I'm trying to figure out what they're doing with a few of these story angles, because we have Wendy Choo and Rosemary keep showing up. They lost a whole bunch, then they had them win. But Wendy Choo doesn't talk, and I don't know that we've really heard anything on a Rosemary either. So like, what is the story that we're doing? Yeah. I don't not like it. I just don't know what it is. So it it was okay. This is thing where he keeps getting shut down is really funny, but again, what's the payoff?
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. Like where, like I'm waiting to see. Like I'm not saying, I'm not excited about it. Just I don't know where it's going. So I'm here for what the payoff might eventually be. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Rosemary's fun to watch. Wendy Choo, great wrestler. Just unfortunate that her gimmick isn't as strong as it maybe could be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as I've said a million times this point, I like it better, and I think it's a higher ceiling than the sleepy Windy Chew, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where you go with it. All right, let's go to our last match. One more match here. A-Town Down Under versus Jevon Evans and Cedric Alexander. We saw A-Town Down Under get the win after Fraxium, Nathan Frazier and Axiom, interfered. They were trying to interfere on, well, not necessarily on behalf of Jevon and Cedric. They just have some beef with A-Town Down Under. But unfortunately, they jump up on the rope and knock down, I think it was Jevon Evans who's on the top rope. And then that immediately led to, as a distraction usually does, ends up leading to the finish, where A-Town Down Under got the win. We saw earlier in the night on the Grayson Waller effect, that they basically brought Fraxium out. I don't know if they coined the phrase Fraxium. I know they brought it up last week. I don't know if they coined it or if that's just now a new thing. I don't really like it, but whatever. Nathan Frazier and
They
Axiom.
didn't coin it. It's been getting thrown around here. Like I think it was like a social media thing. It kind of started as just for
I thought it was,
shorthand,
or
and then
something
it
like
just
that.
kind of adopted it on on the actual product itself.
Yeah.
At least I believe.
But yeah, so on the Waller effect, they basically had a little kerfuffle, little I don't think it didn't break out into. I think it broke out into a fight. I'm trying to remember. The segment is like completely escaping my brain at this point in the day. I've had a very long day. That's why I needed caffeine. But yeah, so obviously, they've got that beef. They're looking to they being Grayson Waller and Jesus, why is my brain just not working anymore?
Yes, it did break out into a fight because they were trying to do the thing that they've been continuing to do, where they're trying to get Austin Theory to turn on Grayson Waller, and
Austin
it
Theory,
seems like
thank you.
he's gonna, and then they jump whoever it is. So like, yeah, they did the thing they've been doing with A-Town Down for a while.
Yes, Austin Theory. Austin Theory's name just flew out of my head, and I'm like, it begins with an A. Even Austin Aries went through my head for a second. I'm like, that's definitely not Austin Aries. I got the
No.
first name right, but whatever. But yeah, so I think this was it was an effective segment. Like you said, they're trying to get Austin Theory to turn on Grayson Waller. We kind of had that moment where we thought we might see that after they said they realized hey, it's the Grayson Waller effect. Why where's Austin Theory's name in here? And Austin Theory's like, yeah, you're right. Where is my name? My face isn't on this and stuff. And then all of a sudden, to kind of distract Austin Theory, Waller just punches, I think it was Nathan Frazier in the face, sucker punched him, and then it turned into a brawl. You're right. Thank you for
Yeah,
refreshing my memory.
it's the same thing that Kevin Owens did to them a month ago, 6 weeks ago.
Something
So
like
I
that.
don't know,
Yeah.
fairly recently, like within the last like 2 PLE cycles, anyway.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to do this, and they keep bringing it up. So I would like to see it happen. I think that could be a fun feud between the two of them. Because
Yeah.
they're both a lot of fun to watch.
No, 100%. I like them a lot. I think they work so well as a tag team because they're just so utterly annoying, but both in a different way. Like Grayson Waller is just loud and obnoxious, and Austin Theory is just, I don't know, like I wouldn't say dumb jock because he's played that character before, but it's
He's
like,
your offensive gym bro guy type like
that
stereotype character, which works really well for him.
exactly. So I think the two of them work really well together. If they were to break them up and they were to have a feud, I'd want to see a big shift for one of them, but Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It would still be interesting. Still be fun. Did I throw to you? I didn't throw to you on that. So yeah, what your thoughts on A-Town Down Under, Jevon and Cedric, and everything with Axiom?
I mean, I will watch anything Jevon Evans does and be happy about it almost always. I'm a huge fan of him. I think him and Cedric as a pair has been working pretty well because I want to say this is their second or third tag match recently, maybe. So that's been okay. I like the way that the match ended with the distraction, so that it doesn't necessarily make Jevon and Cedric look bad. It doesn't really make A-Town Down look bad either. So like not a bad way to end the match. Yeah, I mean solid wrestling all around. I don't really have a whole lot to add on it. I don't think, because most of this is just kind of the payoff from the segment earlier in the evening we were just discussing.
Right. And there was actually another segment that I just realized we didn't talk about, which set up this match. Jevon and Cedric are backstage talking about Randy Orton, the Jevon versus Randy match that's going to be coming up on the CW. And A-Town Down walks up to them and was like, I basically tried to bring Jevon Evans down and say he wasn't worth a Randy Orton match or something along those lines. I forget the exact wording of it, but something along those lines. And of course, tag matches made out of that, because you can't have a beef backstage with somebody without a match taking place later on in the night, or the PLE or big show, whatever big show you're working up to, like the CW matches or CW shows rather. So that was one of the segments that
especially after they spooked A-Town Down Under by calling out Kevin Owens' name.
Yeah, that's right. They did, didn't they? So it was one of the segments. We also, let me throw a couple segments out here. We also saw CM Punk tonight. He didn't show up in front of the crowd, but he was backstage talking about how he's going to be an impartial guest referee to both Ethan Page and Trick Williams. Yep. Saying he's going to be impartial and all of that. And we have no reason to doubt him right now. Wink, wink.
Yeah, because every guest referee is totally impartial. We know that all very well.
There's been a few, but generally you're right.
Yeah, I mean,
Ethan
they're
Page,
in there to add some spice.
Ethan Page is not happy about CM Punk being the ref and basically told him so backstage. Then the other segment I'll throw to you before, because I don't want to throw a million at you, was the training montage for the Don to build his confidence back up on Obafemi. Last week we saw him, I think it was last week, we saw him lose to Obafemi and basically said, look, I'm scared, I can't beat him. We saw Adriana Rizzo cut probably the best promo of her short career so far on the Don, kind of trying to give him some confidence back. And that continued tonight, where they brought him to a gym and had him train, had him box against somebody that, resembled Obafemi, big dude in a boxing ring. We saw in that segment the Don start getting his ass kicked by this guy in the boxing ring, and had a moment where he's like, and where he kind of remembered some of the things we saw. Some of his memories flash through his head somehow, because we have that technology to interpret thoughts now, I guess. He gets back up and fights the dude, beats him down, and he wins. And we kind of end that montage segment. I really liked it personally. Gives a little bit more humanization to Tony D'Angelo, because we're so far, he's been your stereotypical Don, stereotypical mob boss type character, right? And this kind of humanized him a little bit. He's up against an opponent that he can't beat. He's admitted it. He's lost his confidence, which makes me think Obafemi may wind up losing his title either right before or right after he hits I actually got to look after I throw to you. I'm going to look and see how long he's got before he beats out Wesley's reign as North American champion. With everything that they're doing with the Don right now, I almost can't imagine him not beating Obafemi, as much as I hate to say that. The only way that I could see that happening is if he doesn't beat him, and then there's even more of a redemption story and confidence building and things like that. But with the story they're telling right now, I'm a little worried about not Oro Mensah, Obafemi's North American title. Let me throw it over to you.
So I guess we'll start with the first one, the Punk segment. Like I said, he's going to do something during the match, almost certainly, because it's one, CM Punk, and two, a guest referee. They're usually in there to cause some chaos, and we saw it recently with the Seth Rollins match, or he guest refed for SummerSlam, I think. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. It's just keeping that match fresh in people's minds, I think. Obviously the Dawn segment was the bigger of those two that you just threw me. I like the segment. Something that I saw brought up online somewhere, I don't remember exactly where, was the segment from last week where he had lost his confidence and Adriana Rizzo was trying to hype him up, was not quite word for word, but almost word for word a segment from Rocky. I think more of as an homage, to a classic movie kind of thing. And then they also this week now have him in a boxing ring, which is kind of more Rocky inspired, the training montage thing. So I am enjoying it. I would tend to agree with you with as much time and attention now, multiple segments, video packages, all the stuff that they've been doing leading up to this match. I would be very surprised if he doesn't walk away with the title. But then on the flip side, they've been pushing him so hard. You think he's going to win. Well, then if they have Obafemi retain, he looks even stronger in the long run.
So I just looked this up.
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo's going to win. D'Angelo's going to win. So next week we have Miz TV with Obafemi and Tony D'Angelo. The following week is going to be the match. Obafemi only needs to hold the North American title for 10 more days to become the longest reigning NXT champion. He will pass, so he'll pass that before the match of Tony D'Angelo. Yep. So then they can, he'll lose the title. Tony D'Angelo will regain his confidence and be the North American champion. And Obafemi, even in a loss, can be like, it doesn't matter. I was the longest reigning North American champion. So I think that's
everyone comes out looking good in the long run.
Yep, exactly. So I think that's going to be the way it goes, especially now that I see he only has 10 more days. As we speak right now, he's at 259 days, and Wes Lee's reign was 269 days. So
yeah. I mean, I expected he was not going to walk out, as I just said, with it anyway. But with that information, even less likely that he's going to retain that championship.
Exactly. All right, then let's go to this interesting segment between Zachary Wentz and Wes Lee. So they were supposed to be in a bit of a face-to-face, sort of, but they didn't want to have them face-to-face in the ring, so they put them in separate rooms backstage. But the microphone was live before they actually went live, and they captured moments before it's a little confusing, but it's fine. Basically, it was like before they had this segment, they recorded a thing between the two of them where Zachary Wentz was like, or was it Wes Lee? Was like, when can Zach hear me? Oh yeah, he's like, when can Zach hear me? And Zach said, I can hear you right now. The two of them went back and forth at each other, throwing disses. And where this was supposedly off air, it wasn't supposed to be live, whatever. They were dropping F-bombs left and right. I thought it added, as ridiculous as it might have come across to some, I thought it added a little bit of realism to the segment. This is a clear blood feud that spans across companies at this point between TNA and NXT. As well as the history, the history they had, on the indies too, because I think the Rascals were also, they weren't just TNA, if I'm not mistaken. I like this. I like this back and forth segment. Then obviously, they kind of ended with I think it was Wesley like walking off before the segment could actually go on air. So they showed us the recording of what happened and all of that. But I liked it. Like I said, it added some realism. They could get away with the swearing because it wasn't supposed to be shown. They apologized for the language afterwards. They obviously bleeped it out and all of that. Plus, it's their last week on USA. They probably don't give a crap anyway, even though they're still technically on USA with SmackDown. So that's probably not the case. But at least went through my head. So we had that segment with Wesley and Zachary Wentz. Then any of the press conference segments that you want to bring up. We had the one with Fatal Influence. There was the one with Obafemi. There was one with Kalani Jordan that aired kind of like in the middle of another match, but she wasn't even heard. They just kind of showed her while I think it was in the middle of, I forget which match it was. But yeah, so anything on those?
I mean I enjoyed the Wesley Zach Wentz back and forth drop, like you said, dropping F-bombs is adds gravity to what have otherwise been kind of a bland segment, I think. Because you don't hear it very often. It's not something they're doing all the time, even with the bleeped out swearing and all of that. Because we don't hear it very often, it just makes it seem that much more impactful. It does actually seem like something that would have happened backstage, not on camera.
Yeah.
And as far as the press stuff, like I mentioned earlier, I was not an especially big fan of those segments. Because they didn't feel like a real press conference. It felt like a staged press conference to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you exactly what about it felt that way, but they just didn't. I don't know. For me, at least, they really just kind of didn't hit. They didn't really do anything.
Yeah, they just seemed very scripted.
Yes,
very
exactly.
scripted.
It was an overly scripted segment, and it felt like it.
Yeah, for sure. So Kelly, I did not realize Kelly comes in saying that I think it was an inside joke that they did that segment, meaning the Wentz and Lee segment, and then immediately thanked the USA Network for the time they spent there. I didn't pick up on that. I didn't catch that. So
actually,
that might be. That definitely might be. David Hogan coming in saying Wesley's knocking it out of the park as a heel. Very excellent work by both in this backstage segment. Couldn't agree more. Steve Repsher admits that he's old and he dozed off during the show. I don't know why I had to show that. I mostly didn't read what he said before I clicked on it. So sorry, Steve. And Rude Dog comes in saying the press conferences seemed about as real as your backdrops. Yep.
Yes,
you're
and
absolutely right.
For our later podcast listeners, definitely.
Yep, because that's what my backdrop really looks like. So
the space behind me is a giant mess, hence the fake backdrop.
Corbin's in his chair. Actually, I guess your chair. You sit in that more than he does, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. So I think that is going to bring us to the end of our show, guys. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things out that I do at natelindberg.com. Jobin, thank you very much for filling in for the scratchy throat Kelly tonight.
Anytime.
All right, guys. And with that, we will see you next week. Take care.